Welcome to Night Talk. This is our second segment in the series. My name's Bruce Badgley. We've got a cast of thousands, as you can see, including Reading High head coach Andre Doyle. Coach, how you doing tonight?
Doing well. How are you doing today, Bruce?
We're doing great. Unfortunately, I think discretion's the better part of valor, as it's kind of gotten a little bit crazy out there on the COVID here in recent days. So that's why we kind of went the virtual route with segment 2 rather than, being in the studio there. And why don't you introduce everybody, Coach, that we've got on the Zoom tonight?
Yeah. No, so first and foremost, I want to thank you and Wade Marsico again for hosting our Night Talk segment. You guys have done a great job in episode 1, and I know that you guys are going to do a great job in episode 2 here as well. But tonight, as you alluded to, because of the pandemic and COVID restrictions, we decided to do this online. And so with us here tonight, along with myself, is our academic coordinator, Mrs. Danielle Weichel. We have Coach Jamie Laws. We have Coach Kevin Smith. We have Coach Troy Gaudinay. We have Coach Sean Gall. And I think that wraps it up. I think that's all of us.
I don't think we could have fit any more on the screen, but no, it's good everybody's here and that. And, obviously, Wade, you've put everything together for us. Why don't you start off with some of the questions for Coach? The topic for tonight is kind of migrating through COVID. So I guess we're doing this, the right way virtually then.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll kick it off here and ask Coach a question here. Again, with we're calling this Night Talk with Reading High School head coach Andre Doyle and his staff. Glad to be here again. It's a pleasure to be here. So first question of segment 2 is, in general, how was your football team program handling the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, I mean, I think that's a loaded question right there. How are we handling it? It's everywhere. So our program is first and foremost, made up of dedicated coaches and coordinators that are here in every way for our student athletes' mental health and stability. So, we are together, even though we're apart, 5 days a week. So, we do that through our academic coordinating. We do that through our mentorship. We do that through positional meetings, as well as team meetings on a weekly basis. Troy, could you elaborate on that for me?
Yeah. So, Mondays we have our coaches meetings, and, we talk about what we have planned for the week and taking care of the situations that we need to take care of, making sure each other's mental health is on point. One of the most important things, of course, for the coaching staff is to have a relationship where you can lean on each other and hold each other accountable. So it's important that we make sure that we're on our calls together and we're working towards a common goal, and we're there for the kids. And then on Tuesdays, we have our offensive, defensive, and special teams meetings with our student athletes. And there we go through film, we go through the X's and O's, we go through game plans, corrections, and things of that nature to help our students get better on the field, even though we don't have the opportunity to be on the field. And then Wednesday nights, actually, Coach Doyle put together a program where college coaches come and they speak to our student athletes, give them an educational aspect of what it takes to be a student athlete, to get to the college level. What are they looking for in the recruiting process? And just advice that just from a perspective of a college coach giving it to a young student athlete. And then Thursday, we have our positional meetings. And of course, we got guys that play both sides of the ball. So we break that up in different times and go through accordingly.
So
Yep.
what night does Danielle get? What
Yeah.
night do you get, Danielle?
Um, I don't have a specific night. I'm just always available to take their questions and help them whenever they need me. So
And just to refresh
24-hour job.
just to refresh everybody's memory, you're the academic coordinator.
Yep.
Right. Yep.
So what is an academic coordinator like? You know, when you're talking with the students, are they like one-on-one or is it in a group? And what types of things do you go over?
Well, it's different this year than if we were in person, but this year it's just trying to keep them, you know, first quarter has been a lot about just getting organized and knowing the schedule and getting them to attend their classes on the right days. And then if they need any help, they can reach out to me. I can find them other teachers if I can't help. I'm a math teacher, so I'm not an expert in every field, but I can find them someone that can help. But I'm also real big on just checking in on them, you know, mental health wise, because I know a lot of them are really going through it.
Yeah, that the mental, obviously the mental related to the game, the mental related to you know, academics. Coach, do you know when are you given an attendance report specifically by the teachers for the football players?
So I'm not given an attendance report. However, as Mrs. Weichel kind of alluded to, she's in contact with their teachers as well as the students on a fairly routine basis. So we're getting, you know, updates and check-ins on, you know, how they're performing. And in fact, Mrs. Weichel and I just talked earlier today, you know, regarding their first quarter grades and things of that nature. And so that we can kind of put together an assessment, and then, you know, she'll give me some information that I can then share with the rest of the coaching staff, and we can break it down positionally so that we can speak to each of the student athletes on a one-on-one basis.
That's fantastic. Wade, do you have another question for Coach?
Yeah, Coach, this is kind of another loaded question, but I was wondering what kind of protocols are in place from the state and the district as far as, you know, what guidelines are you guys following?
Well, I mean, right now, you know, we have to go from our mandate from the district, and our district is stating that we are not able to be with the students face to face. And so again, you know, we just try to do everything to the best of our ability virtually. So we're just kind of waiting until we get word from the district, and more specifically from the school board, to state that we are then going to be allowed to be with our students on a face-to-face type of a deal. And so, you know, Coach Kevin Smith, he's our newest varsity coach, and you know, and I'm bringing him up because, you know, all of us kind of have relationships with the kids, even Coach Gall, who came over late from Fleetwood, but he worked in the school for the last, you know, 15 years or so. And so it's, you know, it's really about making those relationships. And I'll kind of turn it over to Coach Smith so he can kind of talk about what he's doing to, you know, try to create some type of synergy without being face-to-face with the student athletes.
Well, basically, being the new guy, when we were allowed to be on the field, I myself had to build a trust with the players because they just didn't know me and I really didn't know them. Towards the point where we were not allowed to have contact with them, I believe they started to get used to me. They would talk to me more. The contact was really good, and then we went into this, and this is something totally different. You have to come up with new ideas every week, how to keep them engaged with what you want to do with them. You've got to vary your programs, what you're talking to them about, whether it be film study and looking at the routes they're supposed to run, or film study with how they need to be aggressive with their blocking during running plays and not decide to take time off.
Are you doing this video chalkboard, or how are you conveying these things, Coach?
We use Huddle, and we can screen share it. So when I pull it up and share it with them, I can then point out everything I need them to look at and ask them the questions. You know, what formations are in, what routes are you going to be running? Who are you supposed to be blocking? Who are you looking at before the snap of the ball? All those intricacies that you need on the field, we're trying to convey that virtually to these young men. And every week you've got to do something different, or you're gonna lose their attention span.
Do they get homework assignments?
You know, some of the other coaches do. I haven't done that yet. It's coming.
Coach Doyle's shaking his head.
Yeah, he
Absolutely.
does. He gives the quarterbacks homework assignments. It's going to come to that shortly, because we're going to have a spring season.
Right.
So the closer we get, they better know everything that we're talking about, because we sure have taken the time to convey these messages to them. They should also be split when we get on the field. They ought to know every play, every route, every formation, all that. When we hit the field, we should hit the field running and go. We should be as ready can be.
Wow. Another question for Coach there, Wade?
Yeah, Coach, I was just wondering, how disappointed were the coaches and the team when the school district decided to postpone fall football and move it to the spring?
Well, I mean, obviously you're disappointed, right? I mean, this is something that you put your heart, your soul, your mind, your time, your family, all of those become inundated in your life and your day-to-day within football, right? My work, comes second to football. It takes over your body, your life, your soul. And so, when something is taken from you, it kind of puts you aback. Your entire world is kind of thrown off a bit. We do understand that it was for a real reason. Obviously this pandemic is negatively affecting us all, but hopefully things get corrected here in the months to come. But we understand the reasoning why, but it doesn't make it any less hard to deal with. But as the coaches, as the leaders and the mentors, we have to make sure that we allow them to vent, but then we have to move forward. We can't sit here and just sulk and be upset at the situation that we're given. We've got to learn how to adjust, and we've got to be able to move forward. Coach Gall, I know, he really took this, pretty hard, but I'll kind of turn it over to him and just let him kind of talk about, kind of what he did to really kind of get over this so that we can move forward and so that we could move forward as a team as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was a definite struggle. I've been coaching football now as long as I've been working in the school district. So 14, 15 years, this was my first fall without coaching. I've been involved in the game since I was 6 years old, on up through, mites, midgets, college, high school. So this is actually the first fall in 31 years that I have not been a part of this game. So, we did struggle mentally as well. But, like Coach Doyle said, we had used this time to, vent to one another and lean on one another to get us through. And then we became creative as far as finding different ways to interact with the kids and seeing the light at the end of such a dark we that we're looking through. And I think in ways this is going to bring us closer to our kids compared to any other team. We are spending a large amount of time with them virtually, and we are getting to know them not only on a football level, but also on a personal level as well. So I do think we are going to be probably one of the closest teams in the state when it comes to actually being a family and having a brotherhood and stuff like that. So, as for me, it took us some time to adjust to the current situation. But now, hopefully, as the days tick away and we get closer to spring, that energy level continues to take over. And I think it's going to be really cool that we're going to be the only team in Berks County, anyways, playing in the spring. So we're expecting, hopefully, packed stadiums and a huge following of people from around the area who wouldn't normally follow us because we are the only game in town. And I think that gives us a lot of excitement moving forward.
I think you make a great point there, Sean, is the fact that, and I'll, kind of direct this to Coach Doyle then. Look at the microscopic evaluation then of your football team, because you are going to be, one of the only guys playing in the spring. I mean, how are you, that's a big responsibility and, a lot of attention on these kids. You think they're going to be able to handle it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If nothing more, these young men have shown that they can persevere regardless of situation. March 12th is coming fast. We got the schedule, we got the date, we're at Norristown. We're pumped. We're excited about it, and it gives us a date, and that's huge, to have a date, to have, that time in your mind. Hey, this is when I have to be prepped by. It expedites things. And I know that Coach Laws is talking to the D line and getting them ready to rock and roll, because everything starts in the trenches. And I'll just kind of talk about, or I'll let him talk about, the mentality that we're really, really leaning on, so that we're ready for that March 12th date.
Yeah, I mean, we from not only from a D-line standpoint, but just from a team standpoint, I think we definitely have been building a mentality for us to be able to make it through not only this COVID period, but be able to be prepared for the future when it comes to the spring season that we have coming up. We like Troy said earlier, we're on our Zoom calls on a consistent basis. We're staying in contact on a daily basis with our positional groups. We are, we're constantly going over the X's and O's. We're watching film. We may not be playing in games, but they've gone over game situation a billion times over the months that we've been sitting here at home. So I know that the kids are mentally will be prepared. And as Sean Gall said, he alluded to the fact that they're going to be close. Right, that's something that our team may have lacked a little bit in the past, and so one thing I know is that we're going to be together. Family is our motto, right, and that's what we live by. Forget about me, I love you. So we try to live by that motto for them to make sure that they believe in each other and they follow each other, stick by each other. We've been what we say is night-blooded. Right, and it encompasses a whole bunch of things. Having some pride, some loyalty, to commitment to the program. Always going as hard as you possibly can, forever giving max effort to get the results that you want. So those are things that we live by and we strive by. And like I said, over these months, being able to do the film and all that, and going over the X and O's and staying connected with these kids, and it's been a trial. But I think that the result is going to be successful.
I had one quick question, and it's only related to it wasn't, or it has to do with the spring sports guys. So what impact is there, or what difficulties are you seeing with like spring sports guys? Are they having to make a choice? You have a lot of guys that are having to make a choice between football, spring sports, football, and doing the online stuff for winter sports?
Yeah, I mean, so for us, it's not, one, we never want to push someone to pick one or the other. That's not our motto or mantra of our team. We want our student athletes to be multi-sport athletes.
You don't want Coach Perez getting on your back then.
No. And he's a proponent of it as well. So we have, I think that this year we're going to have more basketball guys out for the football program than in recent history. And we're going to turn around. We're going to have football guys in other sports, wrestling and possibly track and field and baseball. And I think that's good, and it's healthy for the student athletes, for them to just be in one sport. And that's when you overstress specific muscles, and you see breaking down of bodies, and now you're talking about the kinesiology of things and how things happen. There's a reason that a person who does the same thing every day for the same sport eventually gets worn down. And so we want when we're out of season, we don't want to see those guys. We want them to go do their thing. But make sure that they're staying attuned and abreast to what we're doing. So, I don't think that there's going to be an issue there.
Wade, you got another question for Coach?
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of discussed it a little bit, but you guys are playing spring football, obviously. In general, what can we expect for the spring football season? As far as scheduling, how many games, who you playing? If you could give us a little bit more detail than what the spring football season is going to entail.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the spring season is going to start. I believe that the first practice date is March 1st. Can't come soon enough. And our first game is March 12th, and it is comprised of a 5-game season with a championship at the end. And I believe that there are two conferences, or 2 divisions within the made up conference for the spring. And, the winner of each division will play in that championship game. So that's kind of how that's going to be put together. And along with us, we're going to be with Norristown and Chester and Cheltenham and Truman, Harry Truman. There are obviously a few more schools. I just can't think of them right off the top.
So those are 4 to 5 that are going to be playing in your division?
Correct.
Okay. So, and it's comprised of a 5-game schedule with a championship. So there's possibility of playing 6 games.
Yeah. Right in the middle of a nor'eastern, probably. Right in March. That'll be nice.
No, you'll get into April. I mean, you flip it. It's basically going to get, rather than colder, it's going to get warmer for a change.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, that's good. Another question, Wade?
Yeah. So, you guys didn't really have, I don't think, any official practices really, unless you guys did it in the spring or whatnot. But I was just wondering, how does practice differ during the pandemic as opposed to before the health crisis, like when you guys had a normal period and a normal practice? What differences took place?
Yeah. So, we haven't practiced since July 17th. So, there virtually is no practice right now, except for the practice in which we tell, we have scripted workouts and things of that nature that the student athletes are doing on their own. But so it takes a lot of mental drive and tenacity in order to overcome this pandemic, for sure. There's no doubt about that. Because, when you're connected, you're connected, right? And so you can lean on your brother because you can visibly see them. If they're wearing down, you can go over, grab them, help them out, get them through the line if you're, running 110s or something. Where now, you're on your own and you're asked to face these challenges by yourself, and it really comes down to, do I have fortitude to push through this regardless of how tired or fatigued I am? And, so we're going to see one of two things. Either we're going to have a whole lot of student athletes who step up, which I believe that we are. okay, and they're going to show some mental fortitude like no other, or else you're going to have some that get left by the wayside because they weren't putting in the prep time during this alone time mentally. So that's kind of how, you know, I kind of see this playing out.
Okay, well, take us back to like the July 17th before you had to break. I mean, what were you guys doing in practice as far as, you know, there was what, you know, trainers there taking temperatures, or how did it work?
Yeah. So, I mean, we between, you know, our coaching staff and our managers, you know, we had a pretty good system where, you know, we had all the student athletes spaced out 6 feet apart, where we were, you know, asking the questions that were necessary, ensuring that they had masks on, you know, making sure that they didn't have fevers or any of the you know, the prereqs of possibly, you know, contracting or being around, you know, the disease. So from there, then, you know, we lifted outside. So we would go in, grab a piece of equipment from the weight room, take it outside. We lifted, stretched outside, so that we weren't really inside of any space. When we transitioned, we made sure that we were, again, 6 feet apart. When we transitioned from the weight room, or, you know, our made up weight room, to the field, and we made sure that we kept the student athletes in small groups. So by position, they kind of stayed in those positional groups, so they weren't interacting with the entire team for the, you know, for the entirety of their practice, things of that nature, just so that we could control the controllables by saying, hey, okay, if X person was around Z person, we only have to quarantine these 5 as opposed to, you know, 55 players, you know. So that we were trying to do things of that nature.
Have you gone?
I think that it worked.
Have you gone to any games this year to see how other schools are working through the protocols for game day?
Yeah, I mean, so I know that Coach Troy, Coach Laws, and I went to a game or two. I know that it's hard for Coach Gall to watch. Coach Smith, I think that he's gone to one. You know, we watch and we'll try to go, but, you know, we'll be honest with you, it's tough. You know, it's tough to go out on Friday nights, and, you know, and see those other guys out there, and, you know, we're on the sideline.
You know, one of the things for me that I found, and this is just me, my own observation, and I've said it on a couple of the shows that I do, I think that there's an enormous home field advantage, because some of these teams are like, they can't even, the visiting team, they can't dress in the locker room. A lot of the times they're just out on the field the whole time. The coach has got to, you know, talk to the team out in the end zone, you know, and, you know, just as well as you guys are probably not going to talk to your team in the way you want to talk to your team if you're out in the open in the end zone versus what you're going to say in the locker room, right?
Hey, listen, we're always above board here at Reading. You know, we're always above board. So, you know, we're district approved, buddy. You know, district everything approved. We say.
But I mean, that's just an enormous advantage, I think, for the home team, that they can go in their locker room and literally all the comforts of home. And some of these visiting teams are stuck out in the end zone for the whole game. I mean, it was. I tell you what, I see, and I just marveled at Exeter and Berks Catholic when they went over to Governor Mifflin. They're just, you know, they have to go early. They have their stuff. They're having to get dressed out on the field. They're sitting out on the field during all the pregame. They're out there at halftime. I think that's just an enormous advantage for the home teams, you know, during these games. But, you know, it is what it is. It seems like each one of the teams does things differently and how they do it. And that's really why, you know, I asked whether you'd been to the games, because that's going to be, you know, a thing too. I mean, it's going to be totally different for how you do a pandemic game versus, you know, old style football. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, absolutely not. I think that, you know, we're going to have to deal with those types of situations even in the fall, or I'm sorry, even in the spring. So we're going to have to take notes. And I know that a lot of our coaches on the coaching staff have great rapport and and communication with other coaches just to talk and see how they do things. I know that my high school coach, Coach Wechter from Bishop McDevitt, I spent a lot of time over the course of this this past season, just kind of talking to him, picking his brain, seeing, what they're doing, how they're doing it, how his kids are coping on the field, off the field with, dealing with those things as well. And I think it's important, that you talk to people who are going through something because they have real life experience. Wouldn't you agree with that, Coach Troy?
Oh yeah. Well, I agree with that. I think even though, even when you're talking to other coaches and trying to gain that experience, when you're going through it and when you prepare for it, it's still going to be a little bit different for you. And at the same time, while you're trying to get that kind of information, while you're trying to get advice, it's still hurtful, because like Coach said, we live for this. A lot of us came back to Reading in order to be in these kids' lives, So the fact that we're not able to physically, even though we are definitely impacting their lives, but physically be in their lives to impact their lives for the greater nature, it's very difficult. But you could put that to the side, and like Coach said, you got to move forward and get this information from other coaches and see how they're handling things, and it kind of gives you an opportunity to develop stronger relationships as well outside of the circle.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that point and kind of loop Mrs. Weichel into this. And so because of the impacts and because of reaching out to coaches and, business professionals, et cetera, we at Reading have established an incubator program, and Coach Godney and Coach and Mrs. Weichel are kind of heading that. And Mrs. Weichel, if you can kind of talk to them about the incubator program and kind of what that does, so that we can kind of show how we're putting all these things together and practicum so that we can really and fully service our student athletes.
Sure. Yeah, Coach Troy and I are making a 4-part incubator program. It's going to consist of mental health, personal finance, leadership, and NCAA qualifications. So we have been gathering some speakers, and some businesses are putting together presentations for us, and we're going to start recording them. You want to add anything, Troy, to that?
Oh yeah, well, I just think it's first off, it's just a great opportunity to be able to, like we said, impact these kids' lives even though we're not physically there. And this isn't just something for our current student athletes and our just our football players, but this is for the current and the future student athletes at Reading High, so they have the ability to gain the access and knowledge of understanding financial literacy, compartmentalization, understanding the NCAA clearinghouse regulations, because as we all know, and Reading High is a really big school, that step you take to come into 9th grade, it could be very, very challenging, and it can be your make or break year. But if you have that access and that knowledge as an 8th grader, like, hey, this is what I have to do to make sure this is what I have to do to make sure I get to where I want to be. It puts you a step ahead, and it kind of gives you that breaking point, because I know my 9th grade year it cost me a lot of scholarship money. So this is kind of like my way of giving back a little bit, and Ms. Weichel is doing a great job, and Coach Doyle is putting us in communication with a lot of people who are really good, putting great input and making this a successful project.
Wow, that is pretty interesting. And the one good thing for me that I see and what have you is the fact that all you guys coming back and giving back to your school and giving back to the community, that's what draws me to high school football here in Pennsylvania, because without people such as yourself You can't just come in here and just say, hey, we're going to coach football. The level of, just like you talked about, Coach, the level of commitment, okay, with everybody, the level of commitment from your coaching staff, the level of commitment from, academics to keep these guys, on track. I think just enormously commendable. And I'll be honest with you, I wish more people, and hopefully through this series, they'll see that of the dedication that it requires for an athletic program and a football organization to just get a team on the field. It goes well beyond practices and Friday nights. It's just an incredible amount of time that you devote to this, and you should be commended.
No, and we appreciate you saying that, but it's at the end of the day, it's about the people, right? Whether you're a CEO, a business leader, a teacher, a coach, the way that you connect with your students, the way that you connect with your employees, with your customers, is by caring and putting in practice, applications to service them. And through service, and through service alone, will they then, uplift themselves and then go out and spread that message to others. And that's really what we want to do. And then, based off of that, and this is just one of my personal, philosophies that I live by, is just that, I will do what I can while I can, so that when I cannot, I will not wish that I would when I don't have the time. Right. So, like, for me, it's just really about making sure that, we're giving everything we can while we can, so that we can pass that on.
Good stuff. Wade, you got any more questions for Coach?
Yeah, we got a few more here, but we might have to speed it up a little bit just to see if we can get them all in. I mean, there's 4 left here, but this is a 2-part question. How has COVID-19 affected recruiting, and how are you approaching recruiting now that it has turned the recruiting process upside down?
Well, Coach Gall, I'll let you kind of field, how we're doing with recruitment with the recruiting series that we do on Wednesdays.
Yeah, as Coach Troy mentioned earlier, Coach Doyle put together a program Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock. He's actually brought in a coach from every level of college football, Division 1, 2, 3. We had junior college. We had trade school college coaches. We had, every coach that coaches in the college level has come on and spoke to our kids, spoke about the programs, spoke about their school, spoke about what the kids need to do as far as eligibility, SAT scores, what they're looking for, GPA. The kids really took a liking to it because these guys have taken time out of their schedules from coaching to reach out and talk to our kids. So, I mean, from the recruiting aspect, as far as the game is going, that's a struggle, obviously, because we don't have updated film to get out on our kids. But what they are gaining is the recruiting aspect as far as the question is concerned. And I'm not really sure how many high school kids know the ins and outs of the clearinghouse and what needs to be done on the financial end of it. So they are getting that part now. And then our physical part and our game film will obviously come later. So I think we are ahead of the game when it comes to the recruiting process, just because they know what it takes now as far as grade wise to get to the next level.
Speaking of which, I'd like to give a huge shout out to Coach Johnson with Kent State, who came on one of our recruiting series a couple weeks ago. Came on, gave a great speech to the kids, really hyped them up. Went out the next day for their first game, Thursday night Maction. They play in the MAC there, and they had a huge win there. So shout out to Coach Johnson and Kent State there.
How is this going to affect? You were talking about recruiting process or whatever like that, but most of the even in the camp season and stuff like that is through the winter and in the spring. How is that going to work with spring football? I mean, are you going to let these guys go to camps, or have you guys envisioned how you're going to kind of mingle that in with a spring football schedule?
Yeah, Coach Laws, I'll let you field that. I know that you and I talk at length about, crossing over and those kinds of things.
Yeah, I mean, we just have to plan it all out, right? So we do have some things that we plan out for the kids that we want to do for the up and coming seasons during our off time before the season starts. So we definitely have plans to get the kids active and doing camps and things like that. When it comes to actual like football specific camps for like colleges and stuff like that, like right now we're taking kids to camps that are allowed to go for those schools that are opening it up to have kids come on campus that be practicing the right guidelines and allowing it to be a safe environment for the kids to be there. We try to employ the kids to take action and participate in those things. So like this weekend I'll be taking some kids to a camp this weekend to get them acclimated and prepared for what it's going to look like for them going forward. But yeah, we definitely do have some plans for, like I said, college stuff right now before the season starts. And then some things in the spring for them to do as far as them being active that we can try to do, even if there aren't any camps at the time that they're going to need to do them. We're going to have some stuff that we're going to have planned out for them.
Looks like Wade got called away for something there. I think I got, Wade, you got one final question here for Coach?
Yeah, we can do, I guess I can combine two of them that are kind of similar here. We have, how are you keeping your players engaged during COVID-19 and what programs are in place for your players during the pandemic?
Yeah, so just kind of rolling that question in with the question that Coach Laws just fielded. Bruce, we're hoping that in May we get the Friday night light go on again. With that 7-on-7 too, right? So that'll be right after the our spring season, basically a month later, right? So Bruce, you did a great job. You came out and checked us out, man. We were super stoked about that first year. So that was awesome for us.
It was a lot of fun, Yeah.
I
mean, and I think, I'll be honest with you, I think that's, since we had such good success really the first year, I would expect that it'll be a good, follow-up to it, this year.
Yep, that's the hope. That's definitely the hope. But it was great to just get out there and see the kids run and organize their own teams, and get after it and have some competition. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's just spiking that competition. And that's ultimately what we're all here to do is teach them how to properly channel their competitive spirit. Whether it's academics, athletics, education, right? It is what it is. Everything is a competition, right? But you gotta beat you, right? So you gotta go 1-0 on the day, kind of like what we talked about in the first segment.
I got one final question here for you. This could be a quick one here. I just wanted to get this one. And obviously the pandemic's affected your weightlifting program. So what changes have been made? How are the kids working out and lifting as it's on an individual basis, I would assume?
That's correct. Yeah, it's all individualized. Coach Smith, I'll let you kind of field this. Coach Smith is our receivers coach. So he's been sending them some workouts and different routes and different types of speed, agility things that they can do. But I'll let Coach Smith kind of field that one.
Basically, what I've been doing is going over with them the drills that we were doing before we had to stop to make sure they're consistent with that. Being wide receivers coach, my number one priority with them is to make sure they can catch the ball. They can be as fast as they want to be, but if they can't look that ball into their hands, the speed doesn't do any good. So I like to work a lot of drills. I ask them to work with the quarterbacks so that they can get that timing down, and so they're synchronized with the quarterbacks. They pretty much have drills that they talk to me about as far as footwork. to get their speed up to where it should be, to not lose it by being a little stagnant right now. And I keep telling them, and I stress to them in the meetings, that as they keep doing this and they keep progressing, they got to remember that we're going to be playing a season, and that season will take them into our spring ball, which then takes us right into the summer. So they are not going to, as long as they stay consistent, they are not going to lose anything in between the seasons. They're going to be able to keep the strength they have, to keep the speed they have, and they are just going to be able to run with this literally right into next year's season. As far as I'm concerned, I think this football team is going to be very progressive. It's going to be able to push itself further than a lot of the other teams, just for the fact that we are going to be playing in spring, and then right away we're going to be playing again. We are going to be so armed and dangerous and ready to go. I think it's not a good thing for us not to be right now, but I think in the long run it is going to pay off for this Reading High team going through the spring and then right into next year's fall season. I think we're going to surprise a lot of people with the consistency we run on the field with.
Confidence and bravado. Yeah, I like it. I like it. This has been an awful lot of fun. Segment 2 here. We had segment 1 last week. What do we have coming up next week, Coach? Or next time we have segment 3. What's segment 3 going to be?
Yeah, so segment 3 is all about our youth and our feeder system. So we're going to have our junior high coaches on, as well as our youth coaches and their director as well, just to talk about strategically, our X and O's at that, youth level, at the junior high level, and ultimately what we're doing to ensure, those young men are staying in the program for the long haul till they get to the high school. There's no drop off there.
Well, that's great. That's great. Wade, it's been a lot of fun here with segment 2. I mean, we'll have segment 3. I guess we'll be doing that, upcoming. And I'm really looking forward to it. What about you, my man?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I guess it will be next Wednesday night again at 5:30. We'll have segment 3, and we'll put some questions and script together, and we'll go from there. And I think will be very productive.
Well, this has been a lot of fun, and thanks so much to everybody. And we'll see you on our next program.